Everyone knows that timeless phrase. Say it with me, people. The rich, they just get richer. And right now, nobody in the world of college football can come close to touching Kirby Smart, especially after Georgia recently approved a brand new 10-year, $130 million extension that will keep Smart around in Athens for the foreseeable future. Now, for those of you that aren't good with math, that's $13 million annually. This is groundbreaking news. This is baffling when it comes to the riches and abundances that is a salary. And I figured today, let's go talk about if Kirby Smart is the right coach to break the barriers and become the first $13 million man in our favorite sport. But what's going on, SEC Unfiltered? It's Cole Thompson here. Make sure that you like, comment down below your thoughts on Kirby Smart's brand new deal, and hit subscribe, people, because we're talking college football in the SEC every single day leading up to week 1 and all throughout the chaotic craziness of the 2024 season. Make sure you download the podcast version of the show. Leave a review, 1 star if you hate it. Tell us what you don't like. 5-star review if you love it. Spread the word, people. And the best way to do so is by visiting us on social media: TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We got you covered at SEC Unfiltered. You can follow me on social media at Mr. Cole Thompson. Every single link. You can also follow my own YouTube channel at Mr. Cole Thompson. I talk national college football over there. And to keep up with the #1 conference, the conference where it just means more, make sure you visit secunfiltered.com. So, Kirby Smart's going to earn $13 million annually for the next decade. And many people are going to question if this is the right coach to break the barriers. And the short answer, the sweet answer, yes. Yes, it is. This is the one person where you say you're worth this type of money. And I think that you could go ahead and throw Nick Saban into the mix, but now that he's gone, it's kind of a moot point. But you have to remember that much like in society, as we expand our horizons, as things start to get a little bit more egregious and things began to come with technology growing, like our phones at one point was a flip phone. Now it's literally your entire lifestyle. Everything's going to expand, including salaries. You got to remember back in 2013 when Nick Saban signed on a brand new deal with Alabama to not go to Texas, to not even think about going to the Longhorns. It was worth $7 million. $7 million at that point in 2013 was egregious money. People were losing their minds, saying that nobody deserves that type of funds for a football coach. Nobody in the world deserves to have that amount of money. And Saban, at the time, backed it up by winning a handful of SEC championships, 3+ national titles, having 3 different Heisman winners. Yeah, 3 different Heisman winners. And still consistently was pushing the narrative of Alabama being the dynasty where everyone was in the pecking order. Well, he's gone. And Kalen DeBoer may end up actually being a great coach. I love Kalen DeBoer. And I think that his personality, his persona, his offensive consistencies is going to work in Tuscaloosa. But right now, there is no coach that can touch the flame that is Kirby Smart in a multitude of different ways. Number one, he's brought Georgia back to national relevancy in ways Mark Richt never could. He was always good. You always had great programs in Athens, but you never were able to win a national title. Well, Kirby's done that twice and the first time since 1980 when you had Vince Dooley do it. He's also been able to recruit right alongside Nick. That's a big difference maker for me. Georgia was always a good program. They always were able to bring in the right recruits, the right names. They always punched out first-round talent, the ability to reassess their situations and not only reevaluate where they were, but expand each season was phenomenal. But they weren't able to match with Alabama. They weren't able to match with Florida at times. But now they are. And they've actually, I think, surpassed Alabama. They find themselves #1 all the time in the recruiting rankings. They find themselves always in the top 15 of transfer portal rankings. The production on the defensive side of the football continuously is being punched out on day 1 of the NFL draft. And you're also seeing the fruits of the labor turn into the university part, which is really important. I think a lot of people kind of forget this. I'm an out-of-state student at the University of Alabama. I'm from Texas. I grew up in Texas my entire life. And I went to Bama mainly, hate to break it to you, because of college football. I want to be in an atmosphere where I was going to get a great education, but also see great football, see something that was going to invoke me on Saturdays. And I want to be a journalist, and I want to go cover great sports. And it was very hard for me not to get that at Alabama. Even when you look at the softball, and when you look at basketball, when you look at women's basketball, when you look at baseball, there were years in Tuscaloosa where the teams were really good and they were competing for championships. Well, it's the same thing at Georgia. And the one thing about Alabama was you saw countless times the revenue expand with out-of-state students, which meant you had more tuition coming in, which meant you had a higher revenue to be able to pay people. And in large part, it's due to the athletics. Athletics carry that type of weight. And that's what's happening right now in Georgia with Kirby Smart. You are seeing more out-of-state students consider Athens than their own universities at home. You are seeing, if they're able to get into the university, more students pick Georgia because they want to be a part of that culture. They want to see national championships. And you can't tell me for 1 second that every single offseason, you don't feel like Georgia is one of the front runners to hoist up a national title. Yeah, they didn't three-peat, and that's really hard to do. Does anybody know the last time that that's happened? 1934 through 1936, and it was Minnesota of all teams. Minnesota did that. Alabama hasn't done it. Michigan hasn't done it. Ohio State hasn't done it. The Blue Bloods, the faces of college football, haven't been able to accomplish that feat. And Kirby was probably the closest. You tell me last year that Georgia makes it into the college football playoff over Alabama. They go undefeated. They win the SEC championship. They're not hoisting up another national title. They're beating Michigan. They're beating Washington. They're a better team than every other roster out there. And they proved it even when they were playing backups in the Orange Bowl against Florida State, a Florida State team that also was undefeated, and they were ranked behind them. Isn't that kind of weird, though? That's always been something that's bothered me, and I don't mean to go off topic that much, but hasn't that bothered you that we said Alabama could beat Florida State on a neutral field, and then Georgia actually did it, but we had Georgia ranked at number 6 and Florida State at number 5? It just didn't add up. It was just something that really kind of confused me. But you know what doesn't confuse me? Prize Picks. If you haven't heard of Prize Picks, number one, what are you doing? It's America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. And number two, it's the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You can win up to 100 times your money back on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000, $100 into $10,000 simply by betting on basketball, hockey, college baseball, whatever you see fit. It's all there for you. We got the NBA playoffs going on. We got the Predators losing last night to the Canucks. Now you can go ahead and pick on Vancouver. Anything that you want to go ahead and bet on, go ahead and do so at Prize Picks today. Use the promo code SECU for a first-time deposit up to $100. That promo code, again, is SECU to match your deposit bonus. All you got to do is at prizepicks.com, 100% off, and tell them that your friends over at SEC Unfiltered sent you. With Georgia, moving forward, this is the dynasty. Now, I don't think that you're going to have ever a complete three-peat. I just don't see that happening, especially in a game today where you are watching as more programs are going all in for 1 year, and their end goal is to reach the national championship. I don't think you're going to see that. But I do think, much like Alabama was in the 2010s, that is the baseline. Georgia is the baseline. That's where you're trying to reach the peak of. And until somebody is able to consistently, constantly put up the type of production, bring in the type of revenue, bring in the type of consistency, and be able to show that they are on Georgia's level, this is the match point. That's it. You plateau at Georgia. And that doesn't mean that Georgia has to win it every single year, but be real. Don't you think that they will? Don't you think that they're going to be the team to beat in the SEC, if not the team in the national championship? When you look at the odds right now, every single year, it's Georgia, it's Alabama, it's Ohio State, and then you throw in a few other teams mixed in. Clemson some years, you could throw Oregon in, I think, this season. There's a lot of potential. But you look right now, Georgia is the baseline. And the reason why is because of Kirby's been doing it at an elite level. It's not just working the transfer portal and working the recruits. It's also making sure that you bring in the same type of consistency with replacement coaches. You lose a guy like Dan Lanning, and yet you already know Glenn Schumann is next waiting for his opportunity. You lose Todd Monken, and instead of going outside the grain to go for the flashy hire, you promote Mike Bobo, and Bobo balls out. It's smart things like that that makes Kirby worth this. And here's the crazy part. You're going to tell me right now that Georgia shouldn't have given out this contract. Well, go to Ann Arbor. Just go up a little bit north to Michigan. You know what was going to be the offer for Jim Harbaugh to stay around? $12.5 million. They wanted him to stick around with the Maize and Blue, his alma mater, fresh off of a national championship. $12 million. Well, he's won 1 national title. He's been to 3 college football playoffs. He has 3 Big Ten titles. And that's all you got. never a number one recruiting class, never top 10 in transfer portal rankings, never in the same spitting distance as those down in the South. And Kirby's done all of that. More national championships, more number one recruiting classes, higher rankings in the transfer portal recruits, more SEC titles than Michigan. And you're going to say that he's not worth $13 million annually. Here's the thing. Somebody's going to get this deal. Somebody was going to get this type of money because of people thought at the time Jimbo Fisher's 10-year contract was absolutely egregious. People thought Mel Tucker's contract after winning the Peach Bowl was absolutely egregious. People thought that every contract that has been dished out over the last decade plus has been absolutely asinine, unless it is the right person. And you can all really argue right now that there's two coaches that would be deserving of this, and one retired less than 8 months ago. That's why Kirby is deserving of this. And eventually, this will be the baseline. Somebody's going to make $13 million that doesn't deserve it. Maybe it's Kiffin. Maybe it's going to be Dabo. Maybe it's going to be Brian Kelly at LSU. Maybe it'll be a coach that we haven't even heard of yet that balls out, makes it to the college football playoff, and then is one of the front runners for a major job elsewhere. And just to keep him happy, they make him $13 million. And then you have reasons to argue. But when it's Kirby, when it's this guy who every single year is going to have his team fighting for a national championship, every single year is going to be the front runner in the SEC, always pushing out number one recruiting classes, top 10 rankings in the portal, first round talents galore, potential Heisman Trophy candidates. When you have that guy, it at least makes the deal a little bit more manageable. I'm not saying that we can't be jealous of people making this much money, because if it's absolutely egregious that a football coach is getting $13 million. But when you look at what he's done, not just for the state of Georgia, but what he's done for the university, what he's done for the football complex, what he's done for fixing all of college football. In an era where NIL is running rampant, in an era where the transfer portal has no off switch, he's actually done it at the same, if not a better level than Nick did in Tuscaloosa. And for that reason alone, you want to do everything possible to keep your coach happy. And if $13 million keeps you happy and brings you a few more national titles, it might be worth it at the end of the day. But leave your comments down below. What are your thoughts on Kirby Smart's major extension? 10 years, $130 million. Worth it, not worth it? Make sure that you like, rate, review, and hit subscribe here on the channel, because we're talking college football every single day. Download the podcast version of the show. Follow me on social media and my own YouTube channel at Mr. Cole Thompson. Follow us on social media wherever you get your social media apps, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, at SEC Unfiltered. And to keep up with the #1 content surrounding your favorite conference, the conference that just means more, make sure you visit SECUnfiltered.com. Until next time, Georgia fans and SEC faithful, I'm Cole Thompson. See you later, folks.